Hey everybody, hello everybody. Today we're doing lab number one. Today what we're gonna do a visual and manual classification of the soil. So we have in here 6 samples of soil. So we have sample one, sample two, sample three, four, five, and six. And then we are gonna do our visual classification of the soil. And then we're gonna pretty much, like for this lab, the main goal is just to get a hands-on experience how to classify soil and then play with the soil. So we're gonna go one by one. We're gonna go each soil and then we're gonna start identifying each of them. Okay? Thank you. Get ready. So we're gonna have, so from what we know we can classify the soils pretty much into two main groups, right? So we can classify the soil into two main groups. We have the coarse. First one we're gonna say is the coarse, and then coarse is gonna be divided into two parts. So we have the gravel, and we have sand. And then these two type of soil, the coarse grained soils, they can be classified as well graded, well, or poorly graded soils, poorly graded, right? So they can be classified as well graded and or poorly graded, right? And then pretty much we know the well graded soils. So well graded are those that pretty much we have a variety of sizes. We have different sizes of soil. So we have like that. We have, and then we have a pretty small, and then, like in a sample of soil, we have different sizes, right? And then a poorly graded one, poorly graded. It's just the one pretty much all the soil. Like on the sample of the soil, we have just one size pretty much. Most of the soil is just into one similar size. So that's pretty much what we have for the coarse. And then the other group of soils, we have the fines. So when it comes to fines, we have two main groups. We have the silt and we have the clay. And then these two, they can be classified as high or low plasticity, right? High or low plasticity. And then so whenever we see a sample of soil, the first thing we ask, is this a coarse or fine, right? And then if it is a coarse, we're gonna know if we need to determine if it is sand or gravel. And then once we know, we can know if it is a poorly graded or well graded. Like as you can see here, what we're doing, we are just pretty much like grabbing different samples from the soil, so we can know the range distribution based on the size, and based on the size, we can classify if it is a poorly graded or well graded type of soil according to what we learned before. This is other sample that we're taking a look, and we see like this sample, like what kind of soil is more represented here. Like, do we have more coarse? We have more fines, and if we have more coarse, it is a gravel or it is a sand, and if it is a sand, it is a well graded or poorly graded. These are pretty much like the question you're gonna ask, and then be careful that most of the time it is about what particles we have the most that's gonna make what type of soil we have the most that's gonna make the classification of the soil. So here we can see we have some gravels in there, and then we have also some particles with smaller size, right? But then the one that's being represented the most, that's what's gonna define. So you make the decision: is this a gravel? Is this a sand? If it is a gravel or sand, is it well graded or poorly graded? And then you, based on that, you're gonna make the decision on that. So that's pretty much what we do for this type of soil. Well, we're gonna take a look at another sample in here, and we are gonna make the same. We're gonna ask ourselves the same question: is this a coarse or it is a fine? Usually, the best way to know when we have a coarse soil, we can easily separate like the particles individually because they are not that stick together. They don't stick together. But if we have a fine, it's kind of hard for us to pull individually the particles individually. So and then if it is a coarse, and then you ask yourself, is this a poorly graded or a well graded? It is a gravel or sand. Now we're gonna compare fines. We know like well, here now we are trying to analyze the plasticity of three samples of soils. So we know that if we have a fine, the best way to define if it is a silt or clay is by adding water and see how it's going to react as we add water. So we are going to start with the first sample, with sample number 5. So we are going to add water, and something that you need to be aware, make sure that the water is coming at the same rate for the three samples so you can have better results. So we are going to try to spread like the sample, the soil into our hands, and then we are going to see how difficult it is to get rid of that as we try to wash our hands. So the one that takes longer to to wash away, this is a characteristic of a high plasticity soils. And then once you know a high plasticity, so we're going to see how long it's going to take. It's taking some time, but then the first one is just going to be using as a starting measure, and then from the first one we're gonna compare the other ones. So just get the feeling how long it lasts, and then once you get the second one, you can compare to the first one, and then the third one, and then so on and forth. So we are also doing the same thing. So for the second sample, we're gonna spread the sample into our hands, and then we are gonna get that feelings as we said. Like usually, fines they stick together, and then it's kind of easy for us to do. The particles stick together. It's kind of easy for us to do the plasticity test. So make sure the flow rate of the water is pretty much the same for the three samples that we're gonna do, and then based on that, we are gonna add water, and then we're gonna get a feeling of how long this is gonna take for us to get rid of that. Like the ones, see, did it take longer than the first one to wash away? And then if we think this one took longer, then this is definitely a characteristic of a high, is high plasticity. The plasticity is higher than that one. So we have the last sample. We're also going to add water, going to mix, we're going to spread it into our hands, and then we're going to try to wash away, and then make sure the flow rate is the same, and then we're going to see how quick or how hard, how fast it was to wash away. So this is the characteristic of a low plasticity. If that was quick, it's low plasticity, and then once we know the plasticity, we can know if it is. We're gonna determine if it is a clay or it is a silt. So pretty much doing the plasticity test by just like adding water to the soil and then spreading into our hands, and then trying to see how long it takes to get rid of that once we try to wash our hands is it's a good way to make educated guess when we want to know just like quick we want to know we want to classify the soil if it is a fine. So